Good morning. I'm starting my Cajun dressing now. I'm going to get my cornbread done. I use cornmeal mix. I add some self-rising flour, milk, eggs, and oil. If you've never made cornbread before, just follow the directions on the package. Also pour oil on the bottom of that. That helps kind of keep it from sticking, but also gets the edges kind of crispy. It doesn't call for flour, but I always like to add, if I do 2 cups of cornmeal, I do about a cup of flour. It just kind of keeps the cornbread from being kind of gritty. So let me get this started and we'll go on to the next thing. Okay, so I got my cornbread ready. This pan is for one of the dressing of the meat mixture. Normally at Christmas time, I do double that. So I do a 9x13 pan. Since I'm only doing one, I do this size pan. You're going to need 2 to 3 pounds of hamburger meat, hot pork sausage. I always use Jimmy Dean hot. You're going to need, I use a seasoning blend. It's going to take half a bag. During Christmas, I use a whole bag. I'm going to still add a couple of stalks of celery to it. You're going to need 6 bouillon cubes and 4 cups of water. I'm going to get this all put this in the oven, and I'll be back. Okay, so I got my meat and my veggies in here. I did 2 stalks of celery along with my seasoning mix. If you don't want to use a seasoning mix, you would need 2 small onions, 1 large bell pepper, and if you can get a hold of them, a banana pepper, but in 3 stalks of celery. But since the seasoning mix has all of that stuff in it, I just always like to add an extra little bit of celery. Again, I've got 2.5 pounds of hamburger meat and a pound of the Jimmy Dean's hot sausage. And you don't really need a whole lot of salt and pepper. So, I just usually just sprinkle a little, like a really little bit. And then once it's cooked, you could taste it and see. Now, once all the cornbread is done and this is done, for the finishing, before it goes in the oven, you're going to need green onion tops, and 4 eggs, and a little bit of salt and pepper, and some parsley. That's going to be your last step before it goes in the oven. I'm going to get this mixed up. The water and the bouillon cubes don't go in until after the meat and the veggies are done. Okay, so the meat is browned and the veggies are clear. So once that's done, you're going to go ahead and pour your water and bouillon cubes in here. It's going to be soupy, and it should be soupy because you're going to be putting this into the cornbread, and then you're going to want it to be moist. So this is going to, I'm going to turn this down to simmer. It's going to simmer for an hour and a half approximately. And then once that's done, I will get the cornbread mashed up and we'll get it all mixed up. Now this makes a 9x13 in a small pan. If you know people who don't like cornbread, you can make 2 cups of rice and you can use this with rice and then mix your meat in with it. But that's the next step. So let me get this cooked down, an hour and a half, simmer time, and then it goes in. Okay, so the meat has been simmering for approximately an hour and a half. You can see it's still juicy, which it should be. What you're going to do is you're just going to I just take this big container right here, and I just pour it on here, and then I got the small batch on this side. I do maybe 1.5 for the small, and then the rest goes into the big batch. I'm going to get this mixed up, and then you pour in your egg, green onions, parsley mixture over each. Get them stirred up, and they'll go in the oven at 350 for 30 to 45 minutes. Okay, so got it all mixed up. I've got my onions, parsley, egg mixture in here. I did add some salt and pepper to the egg mix. And then you can just taste it and see if it needs anything. Usually, you don't really need a whole lot more seasonings because of the vegetables and the sausage. So I'm going to cover this, put it in the oven for 30 to 45 minutes until it gets browned on the top, and you'll see it kind of crisp up around the edges. So I'm going to get this in the oven, and I'll be back to show you the final product. Okay, y'all, it has been in the oven for approximately 45 minutes. As you can see, it's nice and brown around the edges. As it sits for about 5 more minutes, it will, brown up a little bit more. If this isn't brown enough for you, you could always take the aluminum foil off and broil it. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. Broil it for just a few minutes, just enough to kind of like brown more of the top. But you don't really want this to dry out. You want it to stay moist. And as you can see, this is not a normal dressing. This is basically a meat dressing, but it's called Cajun dressing because if you've got the spicy sausage in it, and so it does have a little bit bite to it. But I promise you, you make this and everyone will love it. So I've got this done. I've got my homemade green beans done with my onions and bacon bits in them, and then I am putting my yams in. It's going to have a crunchy top with brown sugar, flour, and oil, and then I put my pecans on it, and I've got my ham done, so we'll be having our dinner in just about 30 minutes. Happy Thanksgiving, y'all. Enjoy.